All right, so moving on, we're still talking about political participation, but now we're moving on from voting and we're looking more at like how do politicians and elected officials understand what it is that the public wants. And so we're going to be looking at how that comes into fruition. And one of the ways which people learn or that the political elected officials learn about what we believe and what we want is through what we call linkage institutions. Linkage institutions. Notice the word linkage, like it connects. And these are, we're going to define linkage institutions here in just a minute, but just think of it connecting two things. Card five, unit five, card six. Here we go, backside. All right, so a linkage institution, you need to know to define this. You must be able to define this. It's a channel that allows individuals like you or I to communicate preferences to policymakers. Policymakers being, you know, mostly elected officials, but it also could be people in the bureaucracy who are making rules and regulations. So it allows individuals to communicate their preference to policymakers. All right, now I'm going to give you four of them, and here's what's going to happen. In the rest of this unit, we're going to spend time on each of these linkage institutions throughout the rest of the unit. So we'll dive in deeper into each of these. We'll start today with a little bit of the first one on political parties. Okay, here we go. First, the first one is political parties. Political parties link people to policymakers because policymakers get elected through political parties. So they kind of end up knowing what people think and believe through the political parties. All right. So political parties link us to policymakers. Two, interest groups link us to members, policymakers. And matter of fact, interest groups do connect us also to political parties, but interest groups also have a huge influence, as we talked about the bureaucracy, through iron triangles. And so interest groups are really important, having influence on those policymakers and connecting us to those policymakers. All right, awesome. Elections. When we elect people and we're kind of saying, hey, we want this, if one party wins overwhelmingly in an election, then that kind of indicates what sort of policies are wanted. And then lastly, the media. Again, all four of these parties, interest groups, elections, and media, all of them we will dive deeper in. That's pretty much the rest of this unit, unit 5. All right, last card for this lesson, 5.7, functions and impacts of political parties. Functions and impacts of political parties. So like what are political parties for and what do they do? All right, 1, parties mobilize voters. Mobilization of voters. And to mobilize voters means to motivate them to get out and actually vote, obviously. And so they make contact with voters. Maybe at your house, you've had phone calls from political parties and they leave messages, or maybe the candidate running for office has a recorded message, or sometimes like the president or whoever sends a message to your house. And this is called GoTV. GOTV. GoTV has nothing to do with necessarily TV. It just means get out the vote. GoTV. So so get out the vote. That's a really important function of a political party, is to mobilize voters. By the way, this is really critical. You need to know the function of a political party compared to the functions of an interest group. And it's similar in some ways, but it's different. So right now, let's really focus on what it is a political party does. A purpose of a political party is to win elections. That's the purpose. So this makes sense. All right, 2, and if they're going to win elections, they want to educate voters on why they should come vote for them. So educating voters is a really important function of a political party. And they do that through websites and videos and TV ads, and maybe even back when years ago, not so much now, but they would even send flyers to people's mailboxes that, gave you education about candidates and issues. They also create party platforms, and a platform is a statement of beliefs. A statement of beliefs. And it's written at the party convention in presidential years. So 2016, 2020, 2024, these are when the platforms are written. And they basically just list out all the things that the party believes in. written at party convention in presidential years. I'm going to show you just a couple excerpts from 2016. So pause if you need to. All right, so this is the an index of the Democrat platform from 2016, and you can just kind of see like what kind of their focus is: raising income and restore economic security for the middle class, raising workers' wages, protecting workers' fundamental rights, supporting working families, helping more workers share near record corporate profits. So there's like all these kind of things. You go down bottom, fighting for economic fairness and insecurity, reining in Wall Street and fixing our financial system, promoting fair trade that benefits workers. So these kind of classic Democrat issues here. And then if we go and we look at the Republican one, here's an excerpt from the Republican one. It looks a little different. Um, Rebuilding the economy and creating jobs. We are a party of a growing economy that gives everyone a chance at life, an opportunity to learn, work, and realize the prosperity freedom makes possible. So, it's just kind of classic Republican stuff. And sometimes controversial issues come up and the parties really have trouble writing the platform on that, and they need to compromise. Within their party, they need to have a compromise. All right, what else do parties do? Remember, parties' main function is to win elections. So candidate recruitment is a very, very, very significant part of being a political party. And finding a candidate that's going to be appeal to a district or to a state. So they have to kind of be aware, like if you run a really conservative Republican candidate in New York for Senate, they're probably going to lose. So you have to kind of consider that. If you run a really, really liberal Senate candidate in Alabama, they're going to lose. The parties have to be smart about, hey, this is a more conservative area, so we need to have a candidate that kind of appeals to that, or this is a more liberal area, and we need to appeal to that. Campaign management, fundraising, and strategy. Fundraising and strategy. That's an important part of a party's function. They're going to help manage the campaign. They're going to raise money. Remember, it's all about winning elections. And you need money to win the election. You need to recruit good candidates to win the election. You have to have a statement of beliefs. You need to educate your voters, and you need to mobilize them to get out and vote. And lastly, in the actual party system in Congress, in the legislatures, they help run the committees, choose people for committees, help choose people for party leaderships in legislatures, state, by the way, and federal legislatures. So we talked about that in Unit 2, about party leaderships, the speakers, the whips, and whatnot. So they kind of help run those systems. But for the most part, the only thing the parties are supposed to do, win elections. Okay, that's the key part of a function of a party. Hopefully you get that. And all the things around that, fundraising, recruitment, and whatnot. All right, cool. That is our first part of a linkage institution looking at political parties.